Hello and welcome to Wasted Plotential, where we discuss the wasted potential of our favourite plotlines. Most players, in my experience, feel that the story of Mortal 1 Kombat is actually a pretty good new beginning for the series, but it then falls apart or fumbles the ball in its last 4 chapters. The story is fairly low stakes compared to most MK games, following a simple conspiracy plot among Outworld's elites, with Kronika allegedly facilitating, if not outright orchestrating, the events. But then, Kronika reveals herself as Shang Tsung from the evil ending of Aftermath, and we get 2.5 chapters where we fight evil counterparts of the cast from this timeline, followed by a massive blowout ending where Shang brings an army of counterparts and amalgamations from yet more timelines. You know, Avengers Endgame's Portals scene was the culmination of a full decade of storytelling to earn that grand spectacle. MK Armageddon's intro was the culmination of 14 years of build-up from MK1 to earn that grand finale. This is the culmination of one game and an ending scene, I guess. It's far too soon to do this, especially when you title the game in a way that suggests it's a new beginning and not a direct sequel to Game 11. It's worth noting that the typical NetherRealm story mode is 12 chapters long, and the shift into multiverse stuff occurs here in chapter 12. As such, you could very cleanly remove the multiverse stuff and save it for later. All you'd really need to change is possibly swapping someone's chapter out for Liu Kang and or Shang Tsung. Aside from that, foiling the conspiracy and maintaining the peace between the two realms would be a satisfying climax for a lot of fans. I can't say we outnumber the low attention span is got to be epic bro types that Warner Bros seems to want to appeal to, but a lot of fans would be happy for a simple story about martial arts and superpowers after a decade focused on special forces and time travel. So imagine if that had remained the focus. Chapter 12 ends with Shang Tsung and Quan Chi of the main timeline defeated and the conspiracy ended. Then we cut to Kronika contemplating his next move. He is then approached by someone, either someone who shouldn't exist yet like a Kombat Kid, or Geras. Either create momentary confusion, or make the player think Geras is a traitor. Then Shang Tsung reveals himself, comments on how he'll need to try a more direct method, and cut to credits. Then comes the story expansion or a sequel. Titan Shang Tsung is the focus villain, invading Liu Kang's timeline with his own forces, but as the story for an entire 6 or so chapter story, or a full main campaign. In fact, the expansion could focus exclusively on his timeline and set up a full sequel where the two clash. The extra screen time lets us actually explore Shang Tsung's timeline. Consider that, aside from the fact that a bunch of characters are evil in his timeline, we really don't learn anything new about it here. We actually learn more about it in that original Aftermath ending. He's conquering the realms one by one with Raiden and Fujin as his top lieutenants. Aside from Raiden, we know nothing about his followers here. Did he still create Mileena in the flesh pits, or was her origin changed like in Liu Kang's timeline? Were the Shaolin monks always evil, or were they coerced? Why is Reptile a shapeshifter here too? And is he still the last of his kind? Does Shao Kahn have ambitions, or is he loyal? Are Hanzo and Bi-Han lifelong allies, or deadliest of enemies but slaves under Shang Tsung's power? What is Ermac? Who made him and why? These are things we could have explored with more screen time. Because this is the thing that executives and storytellers don't get. Stories about multiverses are boring. They demolish stakes and consequences in the name of spectacle. Who is Janet Cage? Is she from a broader gender swap timeline, or is she the exception? I don't know, but I do know that I don't feel sad when she's comedically pulled off a ledge to her death after she and the Johnny save our character in chapter 15. These counterparts are not treated as characters, full alternate versions of our regular cast with interesting differences in their lives that led them down a different path. They're just flat what-ifs at best, or a lookalike in a different hat at worst. Shang Tsung's timeline should have been the focus of an entire narrative, not a 2-chapter excuse to fight the good guys without consequences. We should have explored the differences in how Liu Kang and Shang Tsung would shape history. Shang's can be more classic in some ways, like keeping Hanzo a Scorpion, but all new in others, like perhaps Jared lived instead of Sindel, or classic bad guys are resistance fighters opposing this dark god. And then we either get our big Armageddon finale at the end of that story, or we continue taking it slow. Havoc is one of Shang Tsung's minions, and he is the one seen on the steps in Jax's place, wounded and abandoned. And then, Titan Havoc shows up, confirming that there are multiple timelines out there, and they're coming for our universe now that Shang Tsung's actions have made all the other timekeepers aware of that fact. And if we save the big blowout for the end of the third story, we now have our individual 3D era reimaginings to finish what MK9 and X started. We fight Shang Tsung and Quan Chi at the end of M1K, then the manipulator who empowered Shang in the next story, then end on the massive pyramid fight that threatens the very existence of the main universe. Yes, this means that invasions would need a new premise, to be explicitly non-canon, or to be delayed until after the expansion. But for a new timeline to actually work as a fresh jumping on point, to let this new timeline settle in before we shift focus to others, and to have an actual escalation to the threat instead of jumping right in and blowing our load with the biggest, baddest guy up front like this was a DC film series, I think it would be worth the sacrifice. But however and whenever you introduce this other timelines thing, you really should bring back MKX's variation system. Think about it. That system offered 3 variants on the same core moveset, and this game features 3 versions of every character. Imagine a Scorpion variation focused on Hellfire for the evil one focused on swords in place of the Kusarigama for the good one, and one with a few Sub-Zero-like moves such as the slide for the main one. Or a Sub-Zero focused on ice weapons for main Bihan, one focused on gimmicks for the good one, and one with an ice elemental for a former noob Cybot. This could even extend to include different faces or voices, giving us a Hanzo variation for Scorpion, Kuai Liang for Sub-Zero, and a God Raiden. It would help to sell the idea of the infinite possibilities of the multiverse better than every post-11 Scorpion, including one who is from 11, using a Kusarigama now, or only Bihan's being Sub-Zero despite Kuai Liang having a far longer and more successful career with that name. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended video is Mortal Kombat 1 Doesn't Suck Chapter 1 Kung Lao by Sonic Heart XD. You've seen where M1K went wrong, so go see how it went right.